Are deadlifts good or bad for lower back pain? Should you squat with knees over toes if you have knee pain? Is weightlifting good or bad for an injury? Should you rest when you feel pain? I'm going to be answering some questions today that are really, it comes from funny questions that I get online. Well, funny for me because there's still some exercises that are really, really good for you that people are confused about because of what I would call some pretty bad information that is being put out there online. And what's sparked this one is that guy Nowdy, whatever his name is, from Functional Patterns, demonizing deadlifts and squats and other really good exercises and trying to tell people that they shouldn't do them for whatever ridiculous reason he's saying. And it's a real shame because what it's creating, oh wow, someone's Hellenic Warrior 90 is saying, on point this video today because I had a debate with someone on functional patterns about it. I have too. Man, those guys are so far down the brainwashed rabbit hole, it's not even funny. It's a real shame because exercises like deadlifting and squatting are two of the most important exercises that almost anybody should be doing. There are some cases where people would want to do different exercises before they worked up to those, but it's very, very rare. And I don't know what that guy's mission is. I don't know if he really believes the rubbish that comes out of his mouth, but there's just so much confusion out there in the fitness industry. And it's funny for me, somebody who's been a coach for 20 years, when I see some of the questions that come through, I kind of feel like, really, is that even still being debated? Like, are people questioning whether this exercise is good or whether that exercise is worthwhile doing? Because there's methods of strength and conditioning that have been developed now for hundreds of years that are really, really valid. And the idea of saying that a deadlift itself is inherently a bad exercise, or even that it's bad for people that have lower back pain or back pain, is a real misunderstanding of the movement and of the way that the human body works. Because, being able to pick something up off the ground is one of the most basic movement patterns that every single person should be able to do. If you don't have the ability to bend over and pick something up, I would argue that your body is just not functioning the way a human is meant to function. There's, a school of thought around, it's funny, this guy calls his business functional patterns. The idea of functional training, the school of thought really comes around, what we would call functional movement patterns or foundational movement patterns, that it is most likely the way that humans evolved to be the way that we are now, which is a hip bend, a squat, a split squat, a horizontal push, a horizontal pull, a vertical push, a vertical pull, and a rotation patterns. And the gait pattern would also be one of the foundational movement patterns. So if you remove horizontal and vertical, if you just said squat, lunge, bend, push, pull, twist, and gait. So if you think about it, if you think about the way that we would have, moved, thousands and thousands of years ago, there's virtually nothing that we would have done that wouldn't have involved either bending over to pick it up, squatting down to lift something up, pushing, pulling, rotating, which comes from, throwing, lunging or one step going forward to be able to pick something up or hold something or however you're moving it, or running, sprinting. And so the idea that we would take, the deadlift is basically, as the example, the deadlift is just the way that we've created, to be able to strengthen that bend pattern. And it is such a good exercise. The deadlift, out of traditional strength training exercises, the deadlift trains more muscles in the body than any other exercise. Believe it or not, it actually even trains your calves, very, very small amount, but it does. It trains your hamstrings, your quadriceps, your glutes, all of the muscles in your posterior chain, so up your back, trains your core. And it even it trains your lats, because you use your lats when you're doing a deadlift to hold your shoulders into position. So it trains all those shoulder stabilizers as well. And then it trains all these muscles in your arms for grip training as well. Deadlifting is one of the best exercises you can do for grip training. And there are many world-class coaches, some pioneers, that believe that deadlifting is the number one exercise that you can do, that you would do. If you remove Olympic lifting from it, from the equation, deadlifting is the biggest bang for your buck to produce raw strength through your entire body out of any other exercise. And it is like the idea that you would say that deadlifting is inherently bad and you shouldn't do it it just goes against so much great research, what so many incredible coaches have, developed methods around and proven in the past, that it just seems madness to do it. And the same thing goes with squatting. A lot of people are really afraid to squat because they've had a bad experience with it. You can say the same thing with shoulder pressing. I get people, we've become really known for being the slap tear rehab guys, because my brother and I have both rehabilitated slap tears ourselves. And we've just put out content that seems to have resonated with people. And now we've got hundreds of reviews of people that have worked with me and my brother online who have rehabilitated their slap tears as well. So we never really intended to be the slap tear people. It just kind of happened because the methods that we use work really well. But I get people that, just the other day, I posted a video. It's quite funny actually, because it's a testimonial video from one of our online tribe members named Ali, who lives in Pakistan. So he lives all the way over in Pakistan and he's working with me online. And he rehabilitated a really nasty shoulder injury, a torn supraspinatus and a couple of other issues in his shoulder. Couldn't lift his arm at all. And part of the video, in part of the testimonial video, he was talking about how he can now shoulder press more than he could before he had the injury, and he can do behind the head pressing. And in his own words, he said, that's just insane because I couldn't lift my arm up at all when I started. And somebody jumped on and commented and said, oh my God, bro, don't ever do behind the head pressing. There's absolutely no benefit to it at all. And there's all this risk of injury, which is just completely false. It's a completely false statement. And it comes, and this is my whole reason for doing this, it comes, I guess, from this bogus information that's out there online, because I know that there are, people that fitness YouTubers or whatever that are, parroting this behind the head shoulder pressing is really bad, and they're pulling up whatever studies that show what it does to the cervical spine or this and that. The exercise is not inherently bad, and I'll talk about the benefits of a behind the head shoulder press in just a sec. The problem is the preparation that any individual does before performing an exercise. So if you injure yourself when you're doing behind the head shoulder pressing, which a lot of people have done, that does not mean that behind the head shoulder pressing is bad. That means that you failed to prepare yourself properly for behind the head shoulder pressing. And it might even just be that you lifted way too much weight for what you were capable of. Because the benefits of behind the head shoulder pressing are developing incredible shoulder mobility and developing strength through range. And like the way that our bodies work is, it's a use it or lose it situation. So we either use ranges of motion and strengthen them and we maintain them, or we lose them as we age. So if you never train behind the head shoulder pressing, you will become completely weak and completely incapable of ever producing strength and controlling strength back here. Now, for most people, they might think of that and say, yeah, but when is that ever going to be useful to you? Who knows? When are you ever going to have to, have a force that's coming against your hand that you have to catch and your shoulder goes back into that position, or from above? Like, when are you ever going to be picking something up and you're holding a load when you're moving houses or something, and you and somebody else are holding onto something that you have to lift up, and unpredictably the load comes back over you and you now have to be able to hold it in a position where your hands are behind your head? Well, if you didn't prepare yourself for that, in that moment you are going to suffer what could likely be a traumatic injury because you weren't prepared for that. So although you might be able to argue that you can train the same muscles by doing just a regular shoulder press, the reasons that we would do behind the head shoulder pressing, and the reasons why I think everybody should work up to being able to do a behind the head shoulder press, are to just have a functional body, a body that is capable of producing force in all different ranges. So, again, the idea of saying that a behind the head shoulder press is bad is just a complete misunderstanding of the body's capabilities. And when we look at people online who have incredible levels of strength and mobility capabilities that are far beyond what the average person is, and would move into that realm of superhuman. People like Ido Portal or Roy Goldschmidt, or Olympic gymnasts or Olympic weightlifters. It's because they've trained their body to be able to produce strength in ranges of motion that allows them to move with freedom. So it's a real misunderstanding to be able to do that. Vibjorn, who's one of my online coaching members, is saying deadlift can be very bad with bad form and is an exercise where people ego lift all the time. That's why I think it has got a lot of the bad reputation. That is exactly right. That's exactly right. People are ego lifting, people are going to the gym, and I get it. I get that if you go to the gym and you haven't worked with a coach like me who can explain this to you, who can teach you progressive overload, who can teach you load management, who prepares the body safely for the lift and explains, the nature of progressive overload and program periodization and layering on slowly, and then understanding that when you see somebody who's safely lifting, deadlifting double their own body weight for, sets of 5 or 8 reps, that they didn't just walk up to the bar and, jump up to that weight in 3 months. Like, that is, you're likely looking at somebody that's been training for several years, maybe even somebody who's been training for 10 or 15 years, and their body is fully conditioned and prepared for that. And, what you're saying there, Vibjorn, is it's poor preparation. The poor preparation is what the issue is. Tim on YouTube, another one of my online coaching tribe members, is saying, this happened to me going to the gym blind. Been training a year now with Unity Gym, and trusting the process has really made a difference. And hasn't it, Tim? Like, your body has changed so much in the year that you've been training with me. It's been incredible. I mean, you came with a traumatic shoulder injury, a slap tear. You were the classic example. You couldn't lift your arm much. You didn't have much muscle mass in your upper body. And now you're behind the head shoulder pressing, and now you're shoulder pressing, and now you're doing pull-ups, and you're pain-free, and you're doing all these other incredible exercises that are that are transforming your body, and it's through this process of doing it. So the purpose of my show today is that the exercise, there are bad exercises out there. There are exercises that I've seen that I look at and I think, no, I would never do that. I think it's a real waste of time. But when you're talking traditional strength training, like the traditional barbell lifts, like a squat, bench press, deadlift, shoulder press, behind the head press, pull-ups, lunges, split squats, like it's just moronic to try to say that they're bad exercises. Hellenic Warrior 90 on Instagram has said, I've got to scroll to read all this, I did functional patterns. It has helpful stuff, but it made me fear movements. And yes, they thought about moving all muscles as a unit has benefits, but like you say, the bad things outweigh the good things. 100%. There is absolute. Look, the thing is, almost any movement is going to be better than doing nothing. And so the stuff that functional patterns are doing is way better than doing nothing. And, anybody that goes all in on something and really commits to, a process of movement is very likely going to see some benefits. But by God, the good that I've seen that those guys post is so far outweighed by the bad, by the way that it's brainwashing people to think that good strength training is bad for you and that good flexibility training is bad for you. I mean, another big thing that they parrot is that flexibility training is a complete waste of time. And they use all these examples of the most extreme cases of people that are hypermobile, or that are like, they show these, I've seen so many videos where they're trying to rip apart good trainers that are like doing, extreme levels of flexibility, and they're injuring themselves doing it. And extreme levels of anything can be dangerous. It goes into the same category as deadlifting. You do extreme levels of deadlifting where you're trying to lift these insane weights where you're like above your 1RM capacity and you injure yourself doing it, then yeah, that is dangerous, but it doesn't make deadlifting dangerous. It doesn't mean deadlifting is bad. Hellenic Warrior is saying again, rope flowing is amazing. That's life-changing. I've never heard or seen rope flowing, so not sure about that. But my concern is this. This is my concern. We only have a certain amount of time in our lives. We only have a certain amount of time to work out. And what Yanni and I, my brother Yanni, have done with the unified movement system that we teach is that we have stripped back everything. We've stripped back a lot of stuff that's really, really good, but it isn't as good as the raw strength and flexibility training that we've left in there. Because at the end of the day, the average person really struggles to find 1 hour a day to work out 5 days a week. And if that's you, if you're struggling to be able to commit to training 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, 1 hour a day, then you want to make damn sure that whatever training that you do have time to do is the biggest bang for your buck. And I can tell you right now that every single exercise that I've ever seen a functional patterns person, parrot as being, the be all and end all, is so far down the list of being the best exercises to build muscle and to build raw strength. They are not even close to it. There are all these full body exercises, and when you do full body, you cannot recruit the same amount of motor units in one area of the body to produce the same amount of raw strength. And the thing that is, if any coach debates now that the loss of muscle mass in an aging population isn't a major problem, then don't follow anything that they say. They've got no idea what they're talking about, and they're not training for longevity. They're training for the now. Because what happens as you age, over the age of 35, unless you're working to build and maintain muscle mass, you start losing muscle mass. And it starts to lose at an alarming rate in your 40s and 50s. 40s it starts getting bigger, 50s it starts getting alarming, 60s it's catastrophic. And this is why we see people in their 60s and 70s and 80s that just can't move at all. And so we should all be working to build as much muscle mass as we can. Now, you look at me, and I'm moving back from the camera so that on Instagram and TikTok you can see me. This is me, almost 47-year-old, who I really work to build muscle. Not like a bodybuilder. I work to build muscle, to be flexible, and to be strong. And this is the best I've been able to do without steroids and God knows what else. So, if somebody like me that works as consistently and as dedicated as I am, if this is what I can get at age 47, and I'm a mesomorph too, so I'm somebody that's naturally geared towards being able to build muscle. I'm not an ectomorph. I'm not somebody that really struggles to put on weight, and I'm not an endomorph, who's somebody that puts on weight really easily. So, the idea that you're going to balloon out and become like a bodybuilder if you're a female, like I know a lot of females have that fear, that it's just so absurd. It's not going to happen. And the idea that you should be focusing more of your time on functional patterns, if you are using that instead of doing traditional strength training, that is going to really maximize muscle growth and maximize strength development and ensure that you can still squat ass to grass, that you can pick things up, that you can catch yourself if you're going to fall and you're not going to stumble and break your hip when you're older, and that you're going to be flexible enough to just be able to move and do the things that you want. It's just, to me, it's moronic. I just think it's crazy, and it's such a shame that everybody wants the new thing. Everybody wants to think that there's some secret sauce and there's some magic formula that's out there that's new, that's going to be the solution to their problems. And personally, I think that's why something like functional patterns has become so popular, because it's so different to what everybody else is doing. Which is funny, because it's very reminiscent of the stuff that, or some of the stuff that Paul Chek was teaching 20 years ago, if you've been in the fitness industry for as long as I have, you'd know who that is. Hellenic Warrior is saying, you're right, I lost a lot of muscle the time I did it, but I was stronger at rotation. There it is. You would have lost muscle. And if you had have kept doing that for the rest of your life, you would have suffered from it. You really would have. It wouldn't have been good. Vibjorn is saying a question regarding the shoulder rehab program. Is it good to introduce the exercises you could do before the injury on your own, or is it best to just stick with the exercises in the program? That's a great question. And Vibjorn's asking me about the shoulder rehab program that I've given him inside our Unified Movement System online coaching. I'm going to say this emphatically to you, Vibjorn. Do exactly what the program that I've given you is. Do not do other exercises outside of it. If you want to introduce other stuff, tell me in the app, in the coaching app, tell me what you want to reintroduce and why. Because every program that I give you uses periodization. So after 4 weeks, and you've already seen this already, the next program phase, the exercises are a bit more challenging. Then the next program phase, the exercises are a bit more challenging. By the time you get to phase 4 in the shoulder rehab program, the workouts are going to resemble much more what a regular strength and flexibility training workout is like. You know, those first 3 phases where we really have to strip back and make sure that you're not going to make your injury worse. And then phase 5, even more so. And every phase after that is going to be so much more like a traditional strength training workout that you're doing. And it's really important that you reinforce to yourself the decision that you've made to join the Unified Movement System and work with me. And I'm sure you've done this already, but if you haven't, make sure you go and watch those testimonial videos, the really short ones on my YouTube channel. They're all in the 10 most recent videos. The one with Freezy over in China. You know, you look at what he's doing now. He's been working with me for 15 months now, but at the time of doing that video, I think it was 13 months. And he was the classic slap tear, couldn't raise his arm past here, was told he needed surgery and decided to work with me instead. A year later, he is stronger than he was before he did the slap tear. And that dude is producing some incredibly impressive strength results. He just posted a video where he did a 1RM of a shoulder press at 1 kilogram more than his own body weight. He weighs 67.5 kilograms over in the United States. I think that's about 150 pounds. And he shoulder pressed 68.5 kilograms, 1 kilogram more than his own body weight, or 2.2 pounds more than his own body weight. He bench pressed well above his own body weight. He bench pressed 108 kilograms at 67.5 kilogram body weight. He's doing sets of 5 muscle ups. He's doing insane, feats of strength. And it's all because he just did exactly the programs that I did for him. So what you're doing is going to lead you there. It's going to lead you to a point, I guarantee you, where you were stronger than you were before you ever had this injury. And the only way that won't happen is if you deviate from the program and you think that you'll be able to do it better than I can write the program for you. So I say that with full confidence. RT is saying, hi Rad, it's Bob. Spot on with age-driven muscle loss. I joined the UMS at age 70. I had a few simple things happen, starkly showed how much muscle I lost. Now I'm slowly getting about 100%. 100%, man. We should all look, man. Look, I rejected the idea that building muscle was important for way too long. But fortunately for me, I got onto it, at a time in life where I've still been able to build muscle, and I've put on about 8 kilograms of muscle last year, over the year and a half, over sort of 1.5 year period. And the reason that I rejected the idea of putting on muscle was 100% ego driven. I was a martial artist through and through in my 20s. It's all I did was Kung Fu. And my brother was a bodybuilder, Yanni. And I just always looked at bodybuilding, and I'd never been into a gym to really experience. I'd never had anybody explain to me the reasons as to why muscle mass is important. I always associated bigger muscles with bodybuilders, and I just thought it was a wank. I thought it was something that I just didn't want to be a part of. And so I rejected it for so long. And then when I started wanting to do calisthenics when I was in my mid-30s, and it just became really clear that strength was a huge part of calisthenics, that I needed to be strong. And I tried to just get strong at first. and I did these slap tears, and it just became really apparent, which is, it's so obvious because I didn't need to figure this out. The writing's on the wall. You know, the more muscle mass that I had, the higher, the easier it is to produce max strength. You know, the more likelihood that you can get stronger when you have more muscle mass. And so I finally bit the bullet, did a couple of years of training where I really focused on building lean muscle, and got myself from about 82 kilograms up to 90 kilograms without, you know, putting on extra fat. So yeah, it's something that I've felt the benefits of, and that I believe everybody should really be focusing on. So the take home from this: don't be afraid of deadlifting. Don't be afraid of squatting. Don't be afraid of behind the head shoulder pressing. Don't believe people that tell you that they're bad. It's the preparation that's bad, and preparation is important. You know, in the army we had a saying, prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. It is so important that you prepare properly. And if you want to know how to do that, actually forget if you want to know how to do it. The best way to do it is so that you don't have to try and figure it out, because trying to figure it out is very, very challenging. And what's that great saying? The reason I'm able to achieve so much is because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. I think it was Henry Ford or somebody very noteworthy, which is the idea that, you know, you can achieve more in life when you draw on the experience of everybody that's done it before you. So if you want to be able to do that and just cut through all this shit and just have it done for you, then come and join my online coaching. Go to unitygym.com and work with me directly. Hellenic Warrior is saying, oh, hang on, the real Nunchuck Canuck is saying, what's up, mate? Saw your video last year. If you doing flexibility, working on the middle particularly, and I dig it. You're solid. Love the calisthenics. Keep pushing me. I have to go in and teach class. Awesome, mate. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your kind comment. Hellenic Warrior is saying, I had a slap tear and I was in your coaching and I was just 2 months and I don't have any pain anymore and I'm stronger than before. I need to come back to get my back perfect again. Do it, man. Get on it. The real Nunchuck is saying, teaching fitness to the ladies or the mums of jiu-jitsu. I hope I could tune in longer next time. No problem, man. Look, it doesn't happen every week, but most weeks I go live at on Tuesday and Thursday Australia time at 8 a.m. So wherever you are in the world, 33 minutes ago, it's Thursday in Australia at 8:33 a.m. So if you're in America or Europe, you're a day behind us, so it'd be Monday and Wednesday for you. But 33 minutes before now is when I go live on Tuesday and Thursday, and I'm here to answer your questions, and I'm here to hopefully teach you guys some stuff and hopefully demystify a lot of this bullshit that's being spread online. So Vibjorn is saying, how do you deal with lifting heavy objects at work while being in the middle of a rehab? Look, that's a tough one, man. You deal with it very carefully and you deal with it very thoughtfully. You know, you do want to, you know, think about the positioning of your body and not just kind of like lean over to the side and lift something up. Like, you want to face the object. Try not to pick objects up from the side. Try and face the object, pick it up, and then turn with your feet. You know, when you rotate with a heavy load, that is when you're likely to cause an injury. So that's probably the most important thing. Misha the Unicorn is saying, prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. That's right, yeah. We called it the 6 Ps. And what was really funny is sometimes people would say, you have achieved 3 of the 6 Ps today, piss poor performance. Anyway, that's back to my military days. All right, team. I hope that you got something out of that. Hellenic Warrior is saying, look at Nisma Yin Yang rope flowing. Sure, I'll have a look. I doubt I'm going to get that into it, man. And I'll just say this in all honesty, because it goes back to the idea of how much time do you have in a day. And personally, I struggle to have the time to just do good strength and flexibility training and keep my body moving. You know, I like to do flow and locomotion because I like to explore movement patterns and things like that, but I don't always get the time to do that. And I wouldn't put that stuff before my strength and flexibility training. That's more important to me. Opinion on sandbag training and lifting from the ground and throwing it. Same thing, man. Same thing. It falls into the category of how much time do you have. You know, if you want, like, if you're really that motivated and you've really got that much time, I think the idea of like maybe doing one session where you do stuff like that maybe once a month or once a fortnight so that you can, express your strength and flexibility in different ways, like do it for a bit of fun, then sure, go for it. I just would never put stuff like that over over tried and tested strength and flexibility training. Like, I should tell you guys a bit of a story. Besides my, I'll answer your question in a minute, therefore I am. Besides everything that I've just said, I'll tell you why I've got such strong opinions on this. Again, when I was in my 30s, I got exposed to Ido Portal for the first time. I had no idea who he was. My brother bought me a ticket to his workshop. I went, met him, worked with him for 2 days. I think I was 37. Maybe I was 36. And I loved it, man. I got so much out of it. It just opened my eyes to this whole new world of movement. I went in there believing that I was a martial artist and, practicing calisthenics, but it just opened my eyes up to it. And I have, so much respect for Ido Portal. I've worked with him twice now in two 2-day workshops, and I think he's an incredible person. I think he's done incredible things for the world, and he is undeniably the godfather of movement training. The real nunchuck Canuck is saying, are you still doing martial arts? Nah, I don't. I've got a punching bag out there and I still hit it. Sometimes I still practice some kicks, and every now and then I'll practice a form, I'll practice a wushu form, but I don't do anything that would make me better at martial arts. I just sort of play around with it still. Anyway, so I got right into this idea of movement training, and movement training was like I was doing a bit of everything. Back then I was doing martial arts. I was like, that inspired me to keep doing some of my martial arts. And so I was doing I was doing all of my kicking training in wushu. I was practicing a little bit of my forms. I started practicing my acrobatic moves again from wushu, like butterfly kicks and spinning butterflies and tornado kicks and jumping and all that. And I was doing some strength training, and I was doing some flexibility training, and I was doing some handstands, and I was doing locomotion and flow, and I was trying to do all of it. And I just kind of didn't really get that far with any of it. I was getting better. Like you can see my videos, if you go to my private Instagram account, which I don't do anything on anymore, which actually means it's really easy to find stuff. But if you go to, if you search Rad Burmeister on Instagram, RADBURMEISTER, I stopped posting anything on that account. Actually, just after I got my slap tear. That was the moment that really made me change the way that I train. And so you can see everything that I was doing up until I got the slap tear. You can see me doing all these different flow and locomotion and everything and all this different stuff. And the problem was that although I was getting better at movement stuff, I didn't develop the raw strength and the muscle mass that I needed to be able to do what I was trying to do without fucking my body up. And that was a real wake-up call for me. That was like, fuck, I'm training twice a day, 2 hours in each session, and I'm not even fucking strong enough to be able to do the shit that I'm trying to do. And it was a real wake-up call for me. It really made me realize just how much more vital the structural balance training that I now do and that we teach in the unified movement system, like that is like above anything when you're getting older. It is the foundation of everything. If you don't have a structurally balanced body and a strong, robust and flexible body, then forget all the other shit you want to do. It's just going to fuck you up eventually. That's my experience, and it's the experience of all these people that I'm working with online, that I'm rehabilitating their slap tears and their herniated discs and their patellofemoral syndrome or their torn meniscus or whatever it is. So therefore I am is saying I have one side back pain between the shoulder blade and spine on the left side. Please suggest something. You need to go and watch my live stream about structural balance training that I did last week on either Tuesday or Thursday. If you go to my live streams, it's one of the 5th most recent live streams. You need to watch that because that's where I explain what you need to do. And if you want to really overcome this, then come and join my online coaching so I can create a structural balance training program for you. Go to unitygym.com to learn more. The real nunchuck is saying, okay, bro, thanks for taking my questions. I'm still training and I'm 55 years old, so consistently working on flexibility and range of motion and movement. Peace out, brother. You too, man. You too. Have a wonderful day and have a wonderful class. Hellenic Warriors is saying, do you think Too much muscle mass is a problem with mobility. Yeah, absolutely. Hypertrophic restriction is a real thing, which is when you have so much muscle hypertrophy that it restricts your movement. But by God, I'm nowhere near it. So, I'm nowhere near a point where I have such bulging muscles that I can't, do anything. Like, I can still get my arms wherever I need them to be. So it ain't anything that I've ever encountered. So yeah, if you've got that much muscle mass, then, kudos to you. Well done. It's not something that I've ever had a problem with. All right, team, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you guys got some value out of this. As always, get your questions in. I'll keep answering them for you. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. It's one thing that you can do to really help me. If you're watching on Instagram or TikTok, then follow me. It really helps the algorithm. Just take one moment. Do it right now. Hit that subscribe button. You're welcome, Bob, and you're welcome, everybody else. And I will see you guys all next week in my live stream. Have a wonderful day.